Hello. I'm here. Are you here? It seems like everybody's here. Cool. All right. Well, hi, howdy. How goes it? It's been a couple weeks, right? Like it's been like a couple weeks. I think my last public appearance was like Takis. I guess. Yeah, I did Takis. I don't know. Mm. It's been a weird couple of weeks. Shout out to Quantum Chaos for donating while we were offline. Thank you for the generous $100 donation. Said if you're not sure if you're streaming tomorrow, but with everything going on, wanted to make sure you didn't have to pay the bills if you need the extra day. All the best to you and yours from me and mine. Very much appreciated. Yeah, I guess I wanted to be back to streaming like Wednesday, so but I ended up having to do some stuff with the line, which is I'm just like learning my new production role stuff with them. So yeah, so for somebody who asked, I am okay. I'm not going to include the offline $100 donation toward the treasure chest because I asked my partner to put something in the treasure chest, and I don't know what it is either. And I want to enjoy the buildup of tension as we potentially get closer and closer to opening the treasure chest. So there it is. I could not gauge what is in there based on his facial expression, but I do wish you had seen his facial expression when he brought it back to me. I handed it to him. I was like, hey, can you please put anything in this in the next 3 minutes and just bring it back to me and don't tell me what it is. It's also really heavy. So what's in the box? Question mark. Treasure chest. Good gracious. We're kind of easing into things. It's the beginning of the stream. We usually, even if we have politics planned for the discussion, we typically wait just a little bit before getting into it. But you're welcome to hit the like button, even if you don't want to like have chill stream time. That's what just chatting means to me. It's like we're chill stream
Drea
time.
has donated $50. Good morning.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Drea. Wow. Okay. Getting us off strong, starting us off strong with a $50 dono. Appreciate that. That does make it feel a little bit better that I took a little time off. But, you know, everybody needs a little R&R. I ended up resting less than I wanted to, but let me get that 50 added here before I forgore. I don't want to forgore. Boosting us up to halfway. Treasure chest. Okay, there's that. Boom. Cool. Appreciate everybody for hanging out. There's so many people. I normally go through and say hi to everybody's individual names, but so YouTube chat, Bloody Fluffy Bunny, cool. Ben Jules, what's up? There's Naomi, hello. Maddie, hello. Riffs, Kenja Nono, Molly, hello. And Chris Woodcock, great name. Love that for you. And of course on the website, Drea, Psycho Plebalian, Shakespeare. Ooh, Shakespeare, I was seeing your good news in the Discord that you have a place to stay. That is great news. Awesome. What's up, Baphomet? And yes, what did you say earlier? You said like hello. Well, you said what's up, homos, indeed. And we got Viren, who after a harrowing couple of days has recovered his dog, who was out on the loose, out on the town for a few days there. So glad that that situation got resolved. Y'all had an eventful couple of weeks while I was gone, and nothing else happened. Nothing else of significance. There's certainly nothing of significance enough to cause me to break my goal of being on vacation to come back here and make videos twice. Twice while I was supposed to be on vacation or having a day off, either one. What have you got to drink today? I have my kombucha, my homemade kombucha. I think I need to stop letting it go so long in the first fermentation, and then it'll be a little bit sweeter. That would be nice. Yummy. Survived Comic-Con for the first time ever. Been a crazy couple weeks. Ooh. Nice. Blueberry Liquid Death. Yum. We helped a friend move in the course of the last couple of weeks since I've been gone. I keep wanting to say, like, since I've been gone, but my voice is not there today. Not there currently. Obviously, things have been a little bit scary, a little bit crazy. I find myself very easily sucked back in, and then it's like, uh-oh, now I'm like watching the news again. I'm like paying attention, and I'm stressing out, and it's making me stressed out in other areas of my life. So it's like definitely a back and forth. The tension between wanting to be informed and the knowledge that it makes me a worse person. But yeah, I mean, shit's been pretty scary. Didn't realize I wasn't subbed. Anyways, good time of the day. Heck yeah. Glad to have you here hanging out. You haven't been here recently enough. If you well, I also like YouTube does kick off your subs sometimes. Like if you're considered like an inactive subscriber or an inactive account, there have been times in the past where like it seems like, oh my god, why did I just lose 300 subscribers all at the same time? And it's because YouTube runs occasionally these little purges that get rid of like inactive accounts, but sometimes it seems as though they unsubscribe people from channels that they want to stay subscribed to. So always double check that stuff. And just like while we're on the subject, the bell thing is really, I think, good, especially if you turn on like all notifications, because I wonder if that can help like kind of circumvent the restricted mode type stuff or the like general suppression. Because like obviously if you subscribed to my channel, even if you have personalized notifications turned on, if you subscribed to my channel for my videos about ContraPoints or something like that, and then I post a video about a movie and you're like, I don't give a shit about that movie, and you don't click, then, or sorry, the algorithm sometimes will decide for you. You don't even get the opportunity to say, I don't give a shit about that movie. You just don't get that served to you on your homepage, probably not in your bell icon either. So, dang, in this day and age, with the algorithm being all kinds of weird and like site-wide issues, even for larger creators, some of which has been kind of explained, but I don't know. It's just been really rough lately. And fortunately, some of that problem can be solved by you, the viewer. If you share and leave long comments is the main thing. And like checking your notification settings and stuff, and, you know, watching the ones that you're like, I'm not sure about that one. Give them a chance. I wish there was a better platform than YouTube. Yeah, yeah. So there was a recent change made, and this kind of falls into the scope of like news from the past week or two. So a lot of the channels that you probably watch, and like even the big channels that you watch, have been making content about the algorithm changing things, or like it seems like their view count is far down now for some reason. And apparently what happened was because people who use AdBlock previously, for the purposes of ad revenue and stuff like that, those views did not really count as views if the viewer was using an ad blocker. But now basically they just changed the YouTube analytics for users on my end to see the views, and like they are adjusted to basically only show the paid views now, apparently. So you may have seen like Linus Tech Tips video where they were like, actually, materially, the views are much higher on other websites. And it's like, okay, yeah, because they're deliberately not showing us view numbers that have not gotten us any revenue. Like, because it's basically like those do not help us. So I'm like, but my curiosity about this is, since views determine whether the video gets pushed to more people, like, and especially views from your own subscribers, weird thing that they do there, like, I'm curious, do views from ad blocked accounts like not count toward your quote unquote views for the purposes of whether the algorithm picks up your video and shows it to more people? Because if that's the case, then like I know this is coming from a position of like I've been paying for YouTube Premium for years. It's one of the ones that I'm like, it's worth it. I'm on YouTube all the time. I don't personally think that it's good to use ad block because I think functionally that is stealing. Like the web model now is you can have like ad-free content with a subscription, or you can have free content with ads, right? So if you're like not willing to pay and you're also circumventing the ads, then you're basically depriving the person whose content you are watching of the what they are basically like planning on their revenue. So like I personally am kind of on the side of like I think it's like kind of like stealing. I mean, it's like piracy, right? But you're hurting small creators instead of hurting like Disney. I am ideologically opposed to ads. Yeah. Would it be possible for you to join Nebula? I don't know. I think Nebula is like you join if you get recommended by somebody, and I don't know anybody who's a creator on Nebula. Yeah, yeah. Gayfesh is like, if you're ideologically opposed to ads, and I don't disagree with you, but just pay for YouTube Premium. Y'all who are canceling your Disney Plus, switch it over. Switch it over to YouTube Premium. You probably watch more YouTube shit anyway, so. But yeah, so not only is that it's depriving creators of revenue related to their content, but I am curious, and I do not know if that view number, does not count for the purposes of the algorithm. So I hope that it doesn't, or at least that like whatever way they were calculating it prior to this back-end analytics change, I hope that at least it's the same as it was before and not something that is like, oh, now we are dramatically seeing a decrease in reach on account of this. But yeah, anyway, how many people here are new subscribers? Because I did just gain like hundreds of new subs in the past day, which doesn't usually happen here, but yeah. I just run another tab with the stream on mute and unblocked. Yeah. I'm not ideologically opposed to ads, but I am opposed to the type and intrusiveness of said ads. And YouTube and Google is intentionally making the ads as irritating as possible to push people into paying money. Possibly. But also, like, isn't that kind of the dream? Like, that's what makes Nebula so great. Because it is funded by viewers, it is not beholden to the whims of advertisers. Like, okay, so you guys are aware of there's a new call for a boycott going around that I've been seeing that's like, we're trying to get people to put pressure on the people who buy ad space on certain television networks, like ones that are owned by Sinclair, I think is one of them. And so the idea is like, okay, hit them in their pocketbooks, do, like prevent people from buying ad space because those companies probably don't want the heat. And then of course the news organizations or whatever could be pressured to cover things differently. I don't know exactly what the request is, but yeah. Pocketbooks. Wouldn't it be better for YouTube? I mean, like, honestly, also if you think about it in these terms of like, if the government starts trying to manage like what content can be on YouTube, because like, okay, update. This is one of the TF happened while I was gone things. Next star. Thank you, Zarin. Oh no. The ADHD strikes again mid-sentence. Yeah, so wouldn't it be better for YouTube to be independent if the United States government declares that trans activism, and by that I mean like, so if you all watched the video from this week, I mean, it was like 40 minutes and it was not very linear, so maybe you didn't hear about it, but the Heritage Foundation has basically publicly said, we are asking the FBI to create a new category of terrorism that basically says like, okay, the way that it starts is it says, if you advocate violence against people who don't agree with transgender ideology, but also like that's the first thing that it starts with. But then I think it does explicitly just say like if you believe that opposing trans rights in the law can materially harm trans people, and you say that like if you draw a link between the connection between like anti-trans legislation and trans suicide rates, then that is a type of terrorism. Because basically what they're trying to do is like if there's an existential threat to your existence, then you might be justified in having a big reaction to that, and maybe like using techniques that are generally, usually most of the time in normal situations, unpopular techniques. And so, yeah, I think that they're basically just trying to say, like, if you state that there is an existential threat to trans existence or individuals, then, like, you could be perceived as inciting a defensive type of violence, I think. I'm not entirely sure. But basically, yeah, that was, so I'm like, the terrorism thing, if they decide like, oh, we're going to try to squeeze YouTube and say you can't host these trans terrorists, like everybody at the line who says that trans rights are human rights and everything, like our entire network just gone, right? So wouldn't it be better if YouTube had less reliance on advertisers? Because advertisers might try to pull back, and you know YouTube has a history of cowing to advertisers. So yeah, wouldn't it be great if YouTube didn't have to rely on that as a business model, and we could just afford a $15 subscription? What even is it? Is it 12, 15? I felt like it went up at some point, but it's on autopay. It's like, that's the problem with autopay bills, is like I forget how much they are. I don't put, most of my shit is not on autopay for like that reason. Telling people that laws have consequences is exactly the same as 9/11. Got it. Yep. Oh, that was solid. Are there ads on Nebula? No, I think that's part of the point. And that's kind of why I brought it up, is Nebula is a viewer-funded network of creators. Like if y'all haven't heard, a lot of especially progressive-leaning creators on YouTube also post exclusive or early content to Nebula, which is basically like a worker-owned co-op. Every creator who joins Nebula has like a piece of ownership of the company, and the money is distributed like more evenly than usual with companies like YouTube. So PhilosophyTube is on there. Glidus and Alt Shift X are on there, or maybe just Alt Swift X is on Nebula. I mean, yeah, there's really, I mean, Jesse Gender has stuff on Nebula. Like, I can't remember everybody who's on Nebula, but maybe Anita Sarkeesian, Lindsay Ellis are on Nebula. But yeah, like I said, it's kind of a, you only get in if people recommend you, so I don't know any of those people. Rocket says they are essentially saying that trans advocacy is a form of violent extremism, aka terrorism, and are using that as a reason to put extra monitoring on trans individuals and allies. I mean, yeah, but they also already changed the rules at like the Department of Human Services earlier this year, that previously there was like a list of things. It's like, you are not allowed to surveil someone just because they're Muslim, or just because they're black, or just because they're gay. And they took out all the stuff that was like gay and trans. Like, so they rewrote the rules to where they are allowed to surveil, which means like monitor your private communications of gay and trans people for no other reason. Like, so think of it in terms of 9/11. The rules as DHS had them written, and I think this probably still applies actually, but they were like, just because someone is Muslim in the aftermath of 9/11, that is not a good enough reason to violate that person's privacy rights and like surveil them, except unless they were like also associated with a terrorist, or like if there was other kind of suspicion of activity, which obviously they probably stretched that a lot, and we're like, oh, well, you're two people disconnected from this terrorist, so we're going to surveil you. Like, I'm not saying that it's a perfect system or anything, but that the idea is, okay, you can't just surveil all Muslims in the aftermath of 9/11. There have to be some limitations here. You have to have probable cause effectively. So yeah, basically same thing now. It was like, you can't just surveil trans people for no other reason than they're being trans. You would also need to be like, we suspect that that was the one that threw a tear gas canister back at the police at the protest or something. Exhibit fucking why on why I don't go to protests for the most part. Yeah, anyway. Subscription services have this nasty way of getting more and more expensive. I had to cancel my Netflix account after 10 plus years because they've jacked up the price so much over the past few years. Oh, and especially because you're not getting more value over time with it, you know, and you're not even getting like the value of a regular TV service. Like a regular TV service, I think will generally invest like a couple of seasons, whereas this thing that Netflix does where they go one season and then cancel things, and they are constantly like moving and shuffling things around on the platform. I'm just so annoyed. Whenever y'all ask me to review a movie that's on Netflix, I'm just like, ugh, I should just bundle a bunch of them up. I'm going to make a list of movies specifically that are on Netflix. I'll pay for 1 month of Netflix, and then I'll watch all the movies. And then just get it over with.
Obsis has donated $10. Just thank you.
Thank you, Obsis. That's very generous of you. I appreciate it. Thank you for, being here. I am doing my best to keep things going. And listen, I'm not going to try to lie. I'm not going to try to sit here and pretend like I didn't also have like a bit of a breakdown this week, right? Like I cried on Friday. I made a whole video in which I cried. I cried more than that though. So it was difficult news to deal with this week, especially because there's just so much uncertainty. And then there's like a million people in my comments being like, you need to leave. And I'm like, I can't. And also I don't want to. So yeah, I guess I'm just here holding down the fort, basically. Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. Untitled Final V2, this version for $12.34 Canadian. I appreciate that. That is $10 US. So even though I don't actually receive super chats until next month, and they take like 30% of your money, I will still count it toward today's goal. Directly through the website is like, it only takes PayPal fees. So that's like the best way to get it direct to me, and it only takes a couple days to hit the bank account. But I still appreciate the super chats. They still help the analytics on YouTube, so thank you very much. Oh yeah, I'm going to be producing later tonight. I don't think any of you really care, but I'm going to be producing on the late show for The Line. I think it's like Forrest Valkai tonight, and I don't remember who the other person. It might be Jack Leeson. I can't remember. But yeah, shout out to doing more work on The Line. It's a lot of fun. I hate the rhetoric of we have to flee. Dig in and join your local communities. Help fight. Yeah, I don't have a passport, and if I did have one, like, it was a monumental effort for us to move all of our stuff up here, and I'm just like we're talking about like multiple generations worth of tools that my husband owns, like all of our collective like art supplies and many musical instruments. Like, not gonna lie, that's a big part of it for me, is like we already moved 2,000 miles across the country, and I don't think we can afford or have the I don't think we have the resources, whether emotionally or physically, to move to Canada right now. And like all of the process that goes into like applying for temporary residency or whatever, and finding a new place to live and all that shit. Like, ugh. So I'm dug in, I guess. I'm gonna be cautious, as I have been cautious, and just live my life and practice saying I look forward to cooperating with the investigation once I've had an opportunity to speak to my lawyer. Um, I feel like I should I weaponize the white ladiness a little bit in that way where I'm just like, ooh, yeah, no, I understand that this is really frustrating. I look forward to answering your questions after I speak to my lawyer. I'm so sorry I can't answer your questions until I speak to my lawyer. You know, like practice saying those things just in case. It's also good, it's diction practice for when you're warming up for your live stream show. I wanted to say that in your thumbnail, YouTube made you look like the Mona Lisa. Oh, okay. It's just, it's okay. So part of it is trying to get a picture, and I'm like, I think I look cuter with my glasses, but also like there's a bunch of reflective lights in this room. So I'm trying to like get an angle where there's minimal reflection off my glasses. So cool though, I guess. I'm not mad about it. Kitty Tick, hello! Netflix's handling of the Witcher series was the end of things for me. Not just that they lost a lot of the shows I used to enjoy, but I am not a fan of the content they are producing anyway. Yeah, totally. Assuming they still respect your Miranda rights. Yeah, no, but you just have to, like, be good, basically. You know, be compliant, but, like, assertive. Hello, Thea. Welcome from Scotland. This is part of why we do the show so early. It's early for me. I start at 11 a.m., which is, for streamers, it's mostly like an evening job. But we start a little earlier to make sure that our friends across the pond can hang out and drink kombucha. Booch, booch, booch. Kitty says, I've been doing my best to keep my head down and attract as little attention as we can as a family. I love that anti-trans rhetoric has been the rallying cry that idiots are allowing for free speech to be impinged on once again. The FCC has always been a block to free speech, but the line was going in a better direction for 4 decades thanks to the shock comics of the 70s and early 2000s. I've come to a realization which is the reason why everyone over 30 is the enemy. The second you draw a line that says, okay, I'm progressive, but this is where I draw the line, unless that line is about protecting other people's rights, that now makes you conservative. Oh, yeah, totally. Just gonna put my nose down and build like crazy. Exactly! Yes. I just, like, didn't know what to do with myself, so I just went to the farmer's market and, like, actually did finally go to a Pride event. They have them, like I said, like, basically the entire summer and into the autumn, you can go to Pride events. In the Willamette Valley, they're just, like, having them all the time. Uncomfy made it. Hello. Haven't caught a stream in a minute. Yeah, I haven't streamed in a minute. This is my first stream on my show in like 2 weeks. What else happened while I was gone? Anything else significant? If you haven't hit the like button, please do. Since there's like 76 viewers. Nice. I wonder if we can maintain this energy for future Just Chatting Trans streams, but I think that mostly we're getting lots of clicks because there is a suspicion that I will be talking about politics, which I am. But I'm like, man, let's get this many viewers on a normal Just Chilling stream. Since we talked about Adblock, does that mean we should not be on this site with Adblock too? So I actually don't know if... I think ads don't play on the website anyway. I'm not sure, though. That's what I was told. Obviously, I'm not, like, watching my own shit on my own website, but I've heard people say that it just doesn't play ads for you all here on the website. Hell yeah. I don't know if there's anything more to really be said about the Kirk thing. Like, obviously, that's the biggest news since I was not here. I made a video talking about, like, the one, I think, like, unique thought that I had. It's the thing. I try not to, like, churn out content just, like, about whatever. I will wait a couple days until I have a thought that I'm like, oh, okay, maybe this is a bit of an original contribution to the discussion, or at least an angle that I don't see most people bringing up. And what I inadvertently did, like didn't unintentionally did, was draw a connection between Gamergate and the murder of Charlie Kirk. One of those things that you don't really, it's like, oh, I didn't think about it in so many terms, but yeah, that's exactly what happened. Yeah, all these people losing their jobs for speaking badly. I mean, it's kind of, it's like, this is one of those things that, like, yes, private companies have the right to, like, whatever. That's part of the, you know, whenever a conservative gets fired for saying, like, something intensely racist or something, we're like, yeah, you don't have freedom from consequences. If your job doesn't want to be affiliated with you, then that's their prerogative. And, like, generally speaking, I think it's wise to be careful what you say anyway, like assuming that there could be ramifications. Like, does your job care what you say about dumb political shit? Or like, I don't even know. I do think this whole Kirk fiasco has shown how little the truth actually matters anymore to the Republican narrative, or to the public narrative. Yeah, yeah. Seeing, and like, okay, so I read something about this week that was Christians who are calling for mourning Charlie Kirk have only seen little clips and stuff of him saying generally motivational things about being a good Christian. Of course, the people who dislike him, like, I didn't even know that he did that. I didn't even know that he said things just generally motivationally for Christians. Selectively, I've only seen the most heinous things that he said, but there's plenty of heinous things that I feel like he's not redeemed in any way by his other shit, but just that, like, we have two completely different images of Charlie Kirk in this country, because there is, like, this guy who just is like a family dude who, like, says things that are pretty acceptably normal Christian bullshit. And, like, the algorithm decides what we see. And, like, that's so... I do think in the aftermath, if you see a bunch of people saying this is a white supremacist, and if you see people expressing sentiments about his death that you disagree with, like if you think people are being too flippant about it or something, I think that it is then your responsibility to maybe dig in and find out, like, oh, I thought this dude was just a normal Christian dude, but maybe they just fucking fall back into that thing where they're like, this is just you vilifying any Christian. Like, all he ever did was say nice things, and you'll just say whatever. You'll just make up lies. And, like, they just don't think, oh, I'm going to go check, you know? They don't go, oh, yeah, actually, he did say some insanely racist things. He did advocate for stoning gay people. Welcome to the website, Raven Deadheart. Sick name. Thought I was gonna burp for a second. All it takes to be mourned by Bible Belt thumpers is loudly proclaiming you're for Jesus while saying wildly bigoted shit. Yeah, and I've also seen people having this discussion about how civility politics seems to mean you can say literally the most disgusting, heinous, violent things, but as long as you're saying it in a polite tone. Like, the fact that it was actually genuinely years ago now, I'm pretty sure, 2 years, give or take, that Michael Knowles said we need to eradicate transgenderism, and that, like, that has increased now, and people are straight up saying, like, we want to inter these people and stuff like that. Oh man, I was gonna say something specific at the end of that sentence, and I don't know what it was. That's okay, though. I had a friend tell me how much he admired and respected Kirk. It really threw me that he simply believed that anyone who said bad things about Kirk were evil leftists. Yeah, it seems easier to believe that people will just make shit up. And like, so here's the thing. When I heard someone say Charlie Kirk also just says generically Christian messages, um, I haven't even checked on that. I haven't gone through and like really tried to find. I was like, I think that makes sense that he probably does in the like, because his messages of hate were also Christian messages of hate. So as a guy who's like primarily doing Christian messaging, yeah, sure, I can see there being some of the like really self-centered teachings of Christianity, like the loving self-centeredness of Christianity, along with the outward hatred that comes with some forms of Christianity. Like I didn't approach that with incredulity. I wasn't like, it's not possible that he's ever said stuff that like generic Christians might find uplifting or something. Hello, Alex Amethyst. Welcome in. He made a living by arguing with children. He used fascist tactics by insisting his lies were truth. I did see someone say recently that like what Kirk was doing was not debate. A debate typically is something where like two people of comparable reputation can have like an advanced level discussion and debate about one usually niche topic. Like you'll have like a Matt Dillahunty versus Saitan. Like that was like, okay, we're gonna have a really high level, in depth Christian debate or debate over Christianity, and here's like a former on he was like on the way to becoming a priest and then became an atheist after studying it thoroughly, and then like Saitan being like a super duper apologist or whatever. So yeah, they're both of reputable, of similar reputation and similar expertise in the discussion, and that is a debate. However, what Charlie Kirk did, and what Ben Shapiro does is crowd work. It's a lot more similar to when you see a comedian who's like, "Oh, hey, you there with the hat? What do you do for a living?" And then they kind of start riffing off of the crowd. It's basically just crowd work, but debate, and where there's like super mismatched, as the people in the audience are not trained comedians or not experienced comedians, so too are the children in the college audience not professional debaters. Therefore, this is not a debate between two individuals of equal standing or of comparable standing. 86 viewers. What's up? Thanks for hanging out. We're talking about all kinds of different politics shit that happened over the last couple of weeks, intermixed with a little bit of me talking about what's going on with me personally and reading your comments and stuff. So hit the like button if you want to hang out. Also donate. When we get to $100 in donations, which we're only this far away, we get to find out what's in the treasure chest. My partner put something in the treasure chest. I do not know what it is. You should have seen his face when he brought. I was like, "Here, take this box and put something in it. I don't want to know what it is, so that we can open it on stream." And the face that he was making when he brought it back to me did not help clarify what would be in the box. I was like, "I don't know what to think of you, weirdo." I love the weirdo, to be clear. He's a weirdo, and we're weird together, and it works. You never see the likes of CK actually debating legit folks. Yeah, it's the same with like with like Steven Crowder, where is it Sam Cedar has been like trying to trick. Well, he's been trying to get Steven to debate, and he doesn't. And I think one time they like tricked him into showing up on the same show, and Steven was he literally was like, "Oh no," and like hung up. What's up, Obsis? I've been away for a while. Have you been able to connect with any cool radicals in the PNW? I am trying to make local friends. I'm also planning a trip to Seattle to go see a couple of my friends, but that'll probably be in October at this point. Almost certainly in October. I need to have a few weeks of like steady work before I take any more time off, and surely if I go to Seattle, I'm probably going to take the following Sunday off. Anyway. Martian says, it seemed like after Charlie was killed, suddenly everyone was a fan, while I highly doubt they even knew him before. Yeah, I don't know. Um, the Sam Cedar switcheroo was the last cool thing Ethan from H3 did. Fair enough. But yeah, it does seem like I feel like Charlie Kirk was someone who was very easily ignored and was just like some fucking dude who said hateful shit. And I'm like, okay, great. But I did not expect him to be like nationally lauded. I wonder if this is like, if this is one of those things where like most people didn't even know who he was, but the government has decided to like blow this up and make it make it a whole thing, like propel him to a level of national fame that he never had during his actual life. I like a good wholesome mystery surprise. Yeah, it's the first time we're doing this. I've been talking about it for a while, and I just always forget to be like, "Hey, my partner, husband, person, can you please put something in the box and it will be a surprise for everyone when we open it." I've been connecting with the left here in Seattle. It's been good. Lots of anarchists, and I get along with them weirdly well. Yeah, honestly, like I moved to an area that leans, I don't know. It's kind of like, I don't know. I guess it's like it leans conservative because like most of Oregon leans conservative, and a lot of the like smaller towns in the Willamette Valley are like they're more affordable partially, and then also they are just like a little bit more conservative. So um I don't know. I'm trying though. I picked up some information about roller derby, which like someone I'm friends with on Facebook does roller derby, and I do understand that it's a contact sport, so I don't know how interested I am, but I'm like, I'm mostly just like, how do I make friends, you know? Oh, I also stopped by one of our many beautiful bicycle shops here in the greater Portland Willamette Valley area. Because, of course, bicycling is a big thing up here, whether that's like commuting around Portland or Eugene. Eugene is also really bike friendly. And then also like the mountain biking community and stuff. But yeah, I've been also just thinking like forms of exercise and certainly being able to get around town without using my car if I'm ever like not in the mood to drive or something, you know, get some exercise. So that's a type of way to join community as well, like meet other people who are into biking. The dude I talked to at the bike store was like super chill. I'm like, I would be friends with this dude, but obviously customer service, I understand. I'm not trying to like be like, yo, let's hang out to a dude that I just like asked a bunch of bicycle related questions for like an hour. Excuse me. Most of the landmass in Oregon is conservative. Yes, yes, yes. Also, what's up, Taima? Rain Raven, hi. I haven't seen you in a bit. Says, even amongst people of comparable standing during these debates, the right does fake this with crap 4v1 debates on controlled TV media where it's just four morons screaming over a leftist. Well, it's probably because it's hard to get leftists to participate in that stuff. So you only get one. You can only convince one to do it. Sometimes when I freshly flip my hair over, it looks really good. I'm like, how can I maintain this level of like volume on the top at least? I don't know. Anyway, is that true? Rittenhouse is now a DoorDash driver. That's funny. The money runs out at some point. Oh yeah, so I agree, Byron. It bugs me that people keep reporting this as that Jimmy Kimmel was fired in response to a bit about Charlie Kirk. But they're omitting that he was actually making fun of Trump not caring about Kirk. So the narrative and all these headlines saying Kimmel show canceled after Charlie Kirk joke feels like they're basically all lying about it. Yeah, I can agree with that. I think I do genuinely think it's super dishonest. It's like, and people are like, "How dare you make this joke minimizing the death of this great man or whatever?" And I'm like, whatever. I'm not even. I can't even. I don't even want to argue the point of whether Kirk was a great man. I think that when they say that, we get stuck on that point rather than being like, the truth of the matter is the joke was not even about Charlie Kirk. Wasn't it about how Trump was like, a reporter said, "Oh, your friend Charlie Kirk just died. I'm so sorry. My condolences. And how are you doing?" And Trump was like, "Oh, I think I'm doing okay. By the way, about the ballroom," and like just stopped, like fully pivoted to something else, and it did not seem like he was particularly shaken up about somebody who, he apparently was friendly with. I don't know. Julius, thank you, says, "I may not be trans, but your vids are peak, and it's good to know more stuff about trans politics." Yeah. I mean, I'm a little frustrated sometimes because I do actually find it really difficult and kind of toxic to talk about this stuff all the time, and partially because talking about this stuff all the time also necessitates that I am learning about it when I'm not on stream, right? Like, I come here and I am fairly eloquent. I guess I shouldn't say very eloquent because sometimes shit falls apart in the middle of a sentence. You know how it goes. But I recognize that I am a confident speaker, and I speak with conviction because I believe in what I say. Um, but I don't want to do that research and stuff, and I don't really want to talk about this stuff except within the context of like, we will discuss current events on stream as it is relevant, and if I really can't handle it, I will simply ignore it, and we will have a stream where we talk about puppies and kittens, just cuz. So, I do want to continue talking about these issues, but I just want to do it in a different context. So, like, I just made a video about they/them, which is about a conversion therapy camp that a non-binary person has to go to, and like all these other gay kids are there, and then there's a killer, and yeah, so. But it's like a psychological horror too about the gay conversion escalating and getting scarier. So it's like, it's a good movie, and I want people to watch that shit. And when I like make videos about the trans allegories in different movies and shit, like, I would prefer being able to enjoy the trans experience and like enjoy things about transness, which I find are just easier to do if you're talking about movies. And even if you're discussing problematic stuff, you're still just talking about a movie. Or maybe you dip a little bit into like, oh, and this is like, this is relevant because at the time there was this real world murder or something, and like tie it back in, but then you're still talking about like something more cultural and artistic and delving into the psychology and the sociology of film and how that relates to cultural anxieties and stuff. Like, that's interesting to me. I don't want to have to keep talking about the latest crackdown on trans rights. Like, I mean, obviously I'm not gonna stop per se because when I'm called, as it were, I do it when I'm called. I enjoyed they/them, and it didn't make me sad the way I saw the TV glow did. Yeah, totally. We got to get a nice variety. I'm going to make a video next week about True Blood. That's like my goal for next week, or I guess this upcoming week, is to manage to put out a video about the gay allegory of True Blood. Like, I don't know if you guys watched it or if you remember it back in the day, but the whole thing was a very messy allegory about homophobia and like racism to a lesser extent, but it was weird, and I enjoyed watching all 7 seasons. Thank you, Svetlana, who says, "I had been avoiding news and politics for months because of trouble in my life that made it all too much to handle, but your calm tone and level-headed presentation makes it a little easier. Thank you." Yes, I understand that, and I totally agree. I've done things like watch presidential debates, but like I'll watch another streamer because I'm like, I don't want to watch the debate, and I'm definitely not going to react to it on stream. That's not my bag. But if a different YouTuber does it, I'll sometimes use that person as like a buffer And like they might make jokes or they might pause the debate for a second, and like I just find it a little bit easier to consume, so I completely get it from that perspective as well. Xenomorphorism, that is a sick name. Welcome to chat. Says the thing is that people on the right don't care about free speech if you disagree or criticize the supreme leader. They want to cancel you even if they're the first ones to be crying about woke people canceling them. Yeah, I did see one conservative. So I saw Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz was talking about, and like I do think this is kind of stupid bullshit, right? I'll get to it. So Ted Cruz was on a podcast or something saying that he does not agree with Trump and the FCC literally like threatening to take away the like, I think it's basically like their license to be on air. And then I imagine that there's like a business license that could also be threatened for like YouTube. Like YouTube does not broadcast on television. I don't think it needs to have the same type, or maybe it does, but like the same type of broadcasting license that you have to have for television. But anyway, someone's license being threatened by the FCC, and then that being like pressure from the government to force that company to comply with the government's request to crack down on the speech of one of their employees, or crack down on the reach of that speech per se. Ted Cruz was like, I don't like this because if we open this door, then there will be a Democrat who gets in office at some point in the future, and they're going to shut all of us down. They're going to keep it, they're going to make it so conservatives can't talk about anything. And I'm like, okay, obviously that's never going to happen because Democrats are not ballsy enough to actually like I think it probably should have been illegal this whole time to say things like we should eradicate transgenderism from public life. Like I feel personally like that is a direct incitement to violence that should not be legal. Like I think any reasonable person could understand that as a call to exterminate a group of people, but whatever. That's just my interpretation, and the interpretation of like basically everybody else who heard him say it. But I was responding to something over here. Yeah, but like, but also I wonder to an extent if the Trump admin are, speaking to the other part of what Ted Cruz said, that like, when a Democrat gets in the office again, then they will crack down on us. So setting aside the question of whether Democrats would crack down on conservative speech, I don't think they would, but maybe I don't know. But maybe the government presently, the administration presently, is comfortable making those such changes and endowing the executive with that much more power because they don't intend for there to ever be a Democrat in office again, which I think is not a far cry off of what they are saying. Like, I don't think it takes much digging or much Pepe Sylvia of the connecting the dots to say that like they're gonna try to run Trump for a third term, and like they're probably gonna try to hold on to that power. Hey, Mitch, that's great news. Top surgery is in October, and Medicaid is covering all of it. High fives, thumbs up. That's good. True Blood was so wacky and so gay. I loved it. I should watch it again now that I'm way more queer than when it first came out. Yeah, I think it's fun. It's definitely trash, but it's very fun trash. And then you can think a little bit about like, ooh, that's a messy aspect of this gay metaphor. I was like going through the spiel with my sibling the other day, because I'm like getting my thoughts together of what I'm going to say in this video, and I'm not going to rewatch any of it. So whatever amount of attention I was paying while I was watching it the first time, that's what it is. I'm not going to revisit anything. And they're just like their pained reaction as I kept going layer by layer of like how messy this gay allegory is. I think that you all are going to suffer and you're going to love it. What does my insurance mean when they say that you need a well-documented case of gender dysphoria? I think a lot of the time what that means is they want typically a therapist to have an ongoing relationship with you and to be able to document and attest that they have been seeing you as a professional for a period of at least 6 months, and that you have persistently identified with your gender dysphoria, whatever, that whole time, basically. I don't know if maybe some insurance can do that with just like a regular GP. But yeah, if you have a therapist who you talk to about your gender transition, who can basically give you a formal letter that says, yeah, this person has had gender dysphoria. I started seeing them on this date. It is currently this date. They have been consistent this whole time. So yeah, that's what that's about. And it's just for your insurance to cover it. If you want to bypass the insurance, or if you want to start the medicine, like if you're able to get a prescription and the insurance just doesn't want to cover it, you can still pay cash price for the medicine so long as you have the prescription. And then maybe after like 6 months of being with that doctor, maybe they could write you an attestation so that your insurance would start covering it, but it's up to you how you want to handle that. I cannot give you medical advice. I'm just, this is how navigating insurance works. And you might have to actually contact your insurance to figure out what the period of time is. Like, what time period do they mean by a well-documented case? Or if you have more than one doctor, like if you have a therapist and your doctor who can both write you an attestation, then maybe that would be valuable as well. And then maybe you don't need a duration of time, but you should still call and ask. Ugh, another trans streamer is going live in an hour. Why is everyone on? I can only watch one at a time. Well, to be fair, I'm pretty consistent. I'm either streaming at my regular time or I'm not streaming. So if somebody else is streaming now when they don't normally, tell them to get off my turf, son of a gun. I almost hit my desk and then I was like, I'm going to hurt myself if I do that. So changed my mind at the last minute. Gay people deserve trash too. Hell yeah. Yeah, so I do think that's an interesting question. While we're discussing Charlie Kirk and the format of his debates, quote unquote, that he did, and Jubilee, I see in the chat we're discussing Jubilee. I think that this has been a question that we've been asking for a long time. I don't know if you guys remember. Now, I'm revealing my age and also the trajectory of my timeline. I used to be much more heavily into atheist activism, and I'm only just now kind of getting back to that after like 13 years or something. Do you guys remember that one time that Bill Nye debated Noah's Ark guy Ken Ham, young Earth creationist Ken Ham? Do you remember? Do you remember these memes? Do you remember this moment? Because we had this conversation back then. Like, dude, this was, okay, so literally 11 years ago. This was 11 years ago. And there was like at least a few months of hype. So basically 12 years ago, we started having discussions in activist circles about the legitimization of debate. Like, does debate legitimize ideas? Are we losing something by hosting Ken Ham? Are we unwittingly exposing more people to his views? Or is it important for us to address those views with science and facts and reason? And obviously Bill Nye, I think Bill Nye even participated in those discussions at the time, maybe after the fact. And he was like, no, I feel very strongly that I need to present a counter to these beliefs, and that it's not going to help anything if we just ignore them, right? And like, this is kind of where I've come down on this as well, with things like, should we just ignore people like J.K. Rowling and Ariel Scarcella? Should we just ignore them? Am I platforming their ideas by... So I do think here's the distinction that I will make. And this is what I've said before, and I think I still generally follow this. I think that there is a difference between hosting a debate versus doing a controlled kind of reaction video, or scripting a response to the person's beliefs as they've already stated them. I do think that you are potentially opening up some risk of manipulation with the audience, because these public speakers like Ken Ham, I mean, he's literally fucking a pastor. Like, oh, I mean, he's probably not literally fucking a pastor, but you know what I mean. He's probably fucking literally a pastor. And so I do think that there is a chance that there might be people in the audience who are like, well, I like what that guy, oh, he, look at him, he looks more confident, that guy seemed whatever, versus the controlled environment of if Bill Nye had made an episode of television devoted to talking about, maybe not Ken Ham specifically, but Ken Ham's beliefs. Like if he had done a series about skepticism, right? Or like specifically about religious skepticism versus like his typical science stuff. I think that there is a benefit to doing it in a controlled environment where that person cannot interrupt you, cannot speak directly to the audience, does not have the ability to undermine you in any way, shape, or form. They can't call out your inconsistencies, which I'm not saying that you should be. I think you should be rigorous and not be inconsistent yourself if you are especially doing like a takedown of someone else's harmful beliefs. But you know what I'm saying? It's like they can't accuse you. They cannot put words in your mouth. They cannot gish gallop. They cannot control the narrative. So that is my opinion about like platforming opposing beliefs. I do think that you run into some risk of platforming them. But also there is a debate, there's a debate about whether, like, let's say people who are fans of Ken Ham tuned into this debate because they wanted to see Ken Ham, but they had never ever heard some of the things that Bill Nye was saying. And that was their first time being exposed to the facts and beauty of science. Okay? So that is an argument to be made. Like, if you just make a video saying, like, Ken Ham sucks and here's why, people who like Ken Ham are less likely. Of course, there is the rage bait aspect of the algorithm. And so some people are inevitably going to click in and they're going to maul at you in the chat. But I do think that that is a potential discussion to have, is like, are we opening a door to people who would otherwise not even be in the room? Like, who would otherwise not even be in the building? Yeah, Svetlana says, I feel like debate is important because it gives people with legitimate questions a counter argument, but that doesn't mean you have to respond to every figure or every argument. Yeah. And I think, you know, obviously we have discussions about efficacy and all that. Like, what's the most effective? You know, we want to use our time in a way that's, you know, we are putting in an amount of time and we are getting a good return of investment on that time as we try to de-radicalize people, or we try to introduce them to new ideas. We try to bring people over to our side, no matter what the issue is. Any types of persuasive interactions like that. I have just enough inflammation in my nose that I can't breathe through my nose, so I feel like it looks like I'm breathing really heavy, and it's just because I can't breathe through my nose, so I have to keep going and take a deep breath. I'm sorry. Especially because I'm like animated. It's like hopefully the end of allergy season because my face is very puffy. But yeah, what was I responding to somebody saying? Debate can be effective. Oh yeah, and then I think people need different things at different points in their journey though. So I don't think we can definitively say, oh, debate never works. Or like, I don't know, like, you should always be nice to people if you're trying to persuade them or whatever, you know? I think sometimes people need to be told, I respectfully, that is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. You know, if somebody says something really dumb, like sometimes people need to be confronted in a way that is like more direct than, well, you know, I think that is a fallacious way of thinking because such and such, blah, blah, blah. You know, like, I think everybody needs different things. So I don't think we can commit to saying like debate as a whole is harmful or debate as a whole is good. I think it's going to have a mixed bag. There are risks and benefits, and it's just like a cost benefit analysis that you have to do at every given moment. Like, is this person too spicy? I don't know. I've been having issues with the stream being very quiet. I think this is just something that with YouTube or something, like, I have my audio up as loud as I can get it. I actually had previously boosted the makeup gain in a way that I didn't even realize was ruining the audio quality until very recently. And then I was like, oh, wow, actually, this is making everything so crunchy. So I had to take the makeup gain back down. I cannot do anything on my end to make it louder, basically. And I know that sometimes sometimes the ads are like really loud, and that's just, I don't know. That's a YouTube mix problem. I don't have any control over that. I've done everything I could. Also, be super duper careful what you post, y'all. Like, if the government is declaring Antifa a terrorist organization, which they are talking about doing, then if you say things like about how you think violence against fascism, against fascists is justified, then, like, I'm sorry to inform you that you do not have the right to free speech and you need to start being careful about what you say. Like, even if you're joking, doesn't matter. You need to start being really thoughtful. And not only for your sake, but like, am I going to get in trouble for somebody like, I've been really checking my comments the last couple days and like making sure to delete things. Like, I'm protecting you from your own Fed posting, but also I'm protecting myself because I don't know if there's going to be ramifications for me not deleting that shit. Like, so y'all need to start paying attention. You could maybe get a mic amp. I'm also going to be getting a new mic it's specifically for the line. But Jimmy was like, you might decide that you just want to use this instead. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe. So it's like an Elgato. This is my most finicky piece of equipment. Not really this here, but the fucking Go XLR. And the Go XLR has been discontinued and they don't support it anymore. So if you need any fix for anything, you have to just go open source. So it's like it's a skittish horse. I have it up and running and working, and it sounds pretty close to what I actually sound like. And I think it's a pretty high quality microphone, but yeah, Jimmy was like, you might decide that it's just more convenient to use the Elgato. Like, okay, that's fair. Actually, I think that those are supposed to have arrived today, but I don't know if they have. I might go check that really fast. I'll be right back. I'm not going to be gone for long enough to play the music or anything, so just... Oh, did you see my earrings, by the way? Earrings. They have mushrooms on them. Mushrooms. Yay. Okay, I'm just going to go check that real quick. I'll be right back. Okay, cool. Everything's fine. Elgato equals the cat? Yeah, I guess so. I never really thought about it that way. But, like, I have an Elgato camera and gonna be getting an Elgato microphone. I'm 58 years old. I've been, quote, careful my entire life, and look where it's gotten us. I mean, if you are not presently in an internment camp, then being careful maybe has done something good for you. TBH, if you're not from here, it could be worse for you. Crimes that don't earn capital punishment sentences will gain you a drone strike instead if they decide they don't like you enough. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a good point, too. I mean, he did say, maybe Canada's going to become the 51st state, so I don't know that it's outside the realm of possibility for there to be aggression towards Canada in that kind of expansionist way. Yeah. Yeah. I feel bad and weird about the whole situation. I was really hoping that I would, like, feel safer here. And I think that if things had not continued to escalate, I probably basically would just feel fine. I'd be like, LOL, West Coast, Best Coast. I'm gonna go hang out with my friends in Seattle, whatever, but, It's just, ugh. Escalation. Europe is becoming fascist fast as well. Right, and so you reach the situation where you're like, okay, so we were beginning to have a progressive part of the world, the Western, the quote civilized, advanced part of the world, where we're starting to accept gay people and trans people. But then a backslide, and then you're like, oh, okay, cool. So there's like the country where I can get beat up and arrested for using the bathroom, or the country where I will be simply put to death immediately, or like the country where I can't get married versus a country where if somebody beat me up on the street and killed me, they would just not get prosecuted. Like, it's just like, okay, cool. There are no good options anymore. They're at a certain point. I think Canada is still probably a few years behind anyway, but I don't think any place you can just be you can't be complacent, right? Like anywhere you are, you have to be willing to be actively opposing this because they are actively trying to weasel their way in. Go XLR Mini equals El Gatito. True. Technically, you are safer here, just nowhere is completely safe. Yeah. So basically, like, I'm okay. So this announcement was made by the Heritage Foundation. As of the last time I looked for an article, Aaron in the Morn is the only news that I've seen talking about this Heritage Foundation thing. So I don't know if it's going to get any mainstream coverage until and unless the FBI actually releases a statement about creating this new terrorist designation. So I guess at that point, I will be looking at Tina Kotek saying, "Ma'am, do you and your wife have anything to say about this?" Like I want assurances from my government of like this place that I moved to specifically to have those protections. I want them to be like, "Nope, we do not agree that trans people are terrorists and we will sue the shit out of you." Like I don't know. I need that assurance. I'm actually shocked that the US has become one of those countries where you can get beat up and arrested for using the restroom. Didn't see it coming, TBH. I know. Did we see the writing on the wall 9 years ago in 2016 when the first one of these bullshit laws came up in North Carolina? Kentucky Conjure, thank you so much. Here from the line. Love you. Stay strong, stay safe. Thank you. I will be on Takis this week, and I will be doing production tonight and the next 2 nights, but that is not that you cannot see me. I will be hiding. I will be the secret voice of God. Shakespeare says it's weird how many drugs get trafficked through the northern border. There is a city in North Dakota that's literally one of the largest black market drug hubs in the nation because they just don't seem to care since it's all white people criming it up. Oh, interesting. Where should I go if I'm in a red state? I mean, God, like, it is entirely up to you, right? If you have family in Illinois, great. Good call. If you have friends in New York, great. If you know somebody in California, cool. If you have a family lineage that will allow you to get, like, Irish citizenship, then fucking go for it. Like, I don't know. It's all... I mean, like, my choice was to come to Oregon, and that was because of a combination of factors, including future climate change stuff. So, and also, like, my personal preference of where I wanted to live. It happened to all line up of all those factors. So now I live somewhere that's beautiful, and I'm close to mountains, and I'm close to the ocean, and I have, like, rivers and fishing and hiking and all this kind of stuff that I was hoping for, and, like, the legal protections, and Oregon is a little bit less populous. So anyway, will I really be arrested for using bathroom in Texas? What is the latest about Texas bathroom law? Texas House has passed a bill Texas House has passed a bill that would bar trans people from using bathrooms in government buildings that align with their gender identities. Now, that is unfortunate because it will also include public schools. The version passed on Thursday differs from the one sent by the Senate, because it multiplies the fines for places that violate the law by 5. So I think that if you have a school and you allow the students to use the bathroom of their preferred gender, then you have to pay a fine, and it's not punishing the person who's using the bathroom. The last minute measure, or maybe this is saying that like you have to pay it as the person who used the bathroom in a way that they don't like. So there's a proposed fine for violators ranging from $5,000 to $25,000 for first offenses and from $25,000 to $125,000 for following violations. And the bill's text says that each day counts as a separate violation. So if you take vacation in Texas and you go to the bathroom 2 different days, that counts as 2 different offenses, for which you might have to pay a total of $150,000. Hi, pretty baby. Hi. He's a good boy. Are you a good boy? Huh? He's not looking at me. Strange man. So SB 8 would require individuals in schools and government buildings to use the bathroom which coincides with their biological sex, also limits what family violence shelters, prisons, and jails that trans people can be placed into, while fines would be set for places in violation of the law. Individuals would not be penalized. Okay, so this is on businesses. This is one of those things where they're like, we're going to pass a law that causes businesses to enforce the law in a way that like we're just basically like recruiting private companies to do our work for us. Hi, baby. You good boy. He's a good, sweet baby. I had someone tell me I could get Italian citizenship, but they have problems with fascism too, from the little I know. I don't think that there's anywhere in the world where you're going to be like, there is no fascism here at all, or there is no fascist party, or like where, like, obviously it is a global thing, or at least it's like in all of these English speaking countries in the West, like we are having this backslide. But I guess that's maybe part of the reason why staying in America is preferable too, because then you can vote here, whereas you cannot vote even on local stuff unless you get permanent residency, probably. And it's going to depend on the country and everything like that. So it's like, do I stay in America where I can at least vote locally and I can affect what happens at the state and local level? Or am I going to move to Canada where I have no control over anything? And like I'm subject to a bunch of scrutiny as a refugee or as an immigrant or whatever. What stops me from going to conservative businesses and using the restroom a bunch of times to rack up fines for them? I'm sure that they would probably start slapping you with like trespassing or harassment charges, so they would find a way to make it a criminal charge. Yawn. Michigan House Bill 4938 has been introduced. This one is a ban on online pornography, which defines all representation of gender nonconformity as explicit pornographic material. So that's Project 2025. Yeah, just literally turning trans people into a porn category, even if all we're doing is cutting our hair and like dressing differently. Excuse me. Yeah, regarding bathroom bans, the government is encouraging as much vigilantism as possible against us. I do seem to recall with Texas, and this may still be the case actually, there was some kind of bounty law, but I think it might have been like, if you report a family that has a trans kid, you can collect a bounty of like $10,000. Am I hallucinating? That happened, right? It's been a long fucking couple of years. Obsis says something that's been helping ground me and help me feel helpful and connected is working with the Seattle group Stop the Sweeps. The mayor here has been doing constant sweeps of homeless encampments, and the group shows up beforehand and during to provide mutual aid like supplies or help them move their belongings. I spend a lot less time spiraling about the future when I'm faced with what is happening right now where I am. Yeah, I think it's healthy for you to volunteer, whatever that is. I recently volunteered. So obviously here in the Willamette, we have a ton of farms all over the place, and we have a couple of different programs that basically like I think that usually there's like one main harvest for any given company that is like growing food, and they hire people to do that one main harvest. But then there's like, so if you have like a vineyard or trees where obviously the plants themselves don't get cleared out after a harvest, then you might have a second, like, oh, well, technically there are still a bunch of these fruits. I guess like yeah, most of those like orchards and stuff are going to be fruits. We still have a bunch of these fruits that are ripening, but we don't like, it's not worth it to hire the workers to like harvest a smaller amount of whatever the produce is. So I went and like picked fruit and donated a shit ton of it. And then also I have a shit ton of it, so I have to figure out what to do with that. I'm gonna learn how to can, I think. But that's like I just like found a thing on Instagram and was like, oh, that seems cool. I'm gonna sign up to be a volunteer. And then I started getting the emails and I signed up and boom. It like feels really good to just give some of your time and to know that like people are going to benefit at the end, because like that food gets donated. And then of course like for volunteering they give you can like take home a bucket or whatever. So yeah, like I picked probably, you know, easily 10 times what I took home, and that is just like pounds and pounds and pounds of fresh produce that a lot of people can't even afford in the first place. And then it's like not gonna rot there, not gonna go to waste, gonna help people, positive contribution to your community. So I think that you should be involved in whatever way that works for you. Like, I don't want to work with people. I don't want to go help directly in that way. But if you want to do that, then that's perfect. You know, that we need people to do like crisis work or like volunteering to help people in like more direct support roles. Like I know that there's like some organizations where you can, it's like one of the lowest paid jobs really, like to like support disabled. It's one of the, that is not for me, but I will pick the hell out of some fruit, y'all. Wouldn't labeling us as pornography restrict us from proper government identification, such as driver license, passports, etc.? Do you mean that like they could prevent us from having an accurate photo, or just preventing us from having an accurate ID, period? Like if they were to say, oh, you as a trans woman, because you're biologically male, you cannot wear makeup in your picture. I don't know if that's what you're driving toward. I'm starting a volunteer position that will be sort of public facing tomorrow, and I'm a little stressed about it, especially since it's a trans org with all the stuff going on related to that. I mean, I think that's great though, because then you will also have more like emotional support resources, because you'll be working with other trans people, or at least other people who care about trans people. And since I know you're in like an unstable housing situation, I just think that like having a good support network is important. So like, okay, what else? I looked into roller derby. I might see about that, although I don't know. It's like, I haven't decided if I really want to pursue it, but it just seems like a good way to learn, to like meet some people and socialize and maybe be like, so it turns out I'm not into roller derby, but I will still be friends with these people and maybe do other things with them. What else am I trying to do as far as meeting people? I've been really hesitant to get involved with the Democratic Socialists of America, but I don't know. I'm kind of thinking about it, just in those, like, I don't know, even just to like meet people, go once or something. I also recently joined Meetup and was seeing like, are there any good meetups near me that I want to go to? There are some. I don't know. I'm not particularly excited about any of them, but Drea says, I feel like the US is past the point where voting will fix anything. Sad face. I really worry about how much longer things will hold together. Yeah, I do keep seeing people say like no fascist government has ever been voted out of power. And so yeah, when I see people say that, that's when I enter my zen of like I have no idea what's going to happen. Let's fucking see. Like I just have this like mode that I go into sometimes where I'm like who fucking knows what's going to happen? I'm letting it pass over me like water. I am a stone in the river, and everything is just passing over me. And I will be potentially carried down the stream. But for now, I'm heavy enough to not. If there's a flood or something, maybe I'll get shaken up from my position. But for the time being, I'm pretty grounded. That metaphor, I didn't intend for it to get that long, but it fucking worked the whole time. Glamour Claw says, I'm looking to move to New Mexico as it's the closest blue state to me. In the meantime, I hope to store the energy to volunteer with a trans support group in their kitchen prepping meals. Hell yeah, I like that. I know Ty Turner and his wife moved to New Mexico. Climate change is the reason why I would not suggest New Mexico, because, like, it's just gonna not be habitable within the next, like, 20 years. Like, it's gonna straight up be a desert. There is just not going to be a way. And also, if we have... I learned the word balkanization, which is... I keep saying this concept. I mean, I guess also balkanization. Okay, so I keep saying I am wondering if the economy collapses and if the federal government has difficulty keeping control, if there is a splintering of states. That's part of why I moved to the West Coast, is because I figured, okay, we have like Washington, Oregon, California, boom. We can build a coalition because we are contiguous. We represent one contiguous landmass. And so far, that is kind of happening, where along with Hawaii, those 3 states and Hawaii have decided, like, we are giving our own vaccine recommendations. So we are kind of seeing that happen. So that's another reason why I would worry about New Mexico, is like if we had a breakdown. Balkanization does include in its definition like a breakdown into smaller territories which are mutually hostile to one another. That was my very brief Google understanding of the term. So I'm not saying that it is necessarily going to be mutually hostile. Maybe hostile from one direction. Like maybe Idaho is going to try to invade Oregon or something. But yeah, more generally though, I am worried about places like New Mexico because y'all are disconnected. Whereas, and like same with Illinois, like Arden was talking about moving to Illinois, and I have the same concern. I'm like, y'all are an island, if Illinois itself is just like, we're going to be independent, or I don't mean that they're going to secede. I mean, like, if the federal government for some reason collapses and then individual governments have to kind of pick up the pieces, then what's going to happen potentially. And yeah, like I just worry about those states that are kind of on their own. And like we have California in Cascadia. We have like one of the obviously, like people always say, like California on its own has a greater GDP than many countries. So like, yeah, we have California. We're going to be fine. Who's saying the rapture is going to happen in the next 5 days? Who's that? Thank you, Lex. I appreciate that. Having some sort of ocean access is really important for country longevity. Yeah, I mean, there's some landlocked countries in Europe, but also they have the European Union, so they are not... they have like an amount of free trade that probably makes it so that lacking ocean access as like one relatively small country in a union of countries is probably like less impactful. Illinois does have Canada next door. Guess that's true. Yeah, they could be like, hey, Canada, can you please take care of us? People all over Christian TikTok are conspiracy theorizing about the rapture coming in a few days. Oh, okay, cool. Rapture and end times happening any day now for the past 2,000 years, truly. No one wants to balkanize, but long term, the right wing has to get over social issues. Well, I mean, I'm not even saying like I want to balkanize. Like, okay, so as always, oh, hi, if you're new here, by the way. Hi, there's 88 of you here, which I would bet means that some of you have not been here before to hear me talk about this. In 1972, at MIT, a report was commissioned called the Limits to Growth Report. And what they did was they said, hey, what would happen to the economy in 100 years if we did this or that or that or that? And so they created a few different models. Some of those models were like, what if we really decided to tackle climate change? And stuff like that. What would happen if we did this or that regarding specifically the economy? One of those models was, what happens if it's basically the worst case scenario? Like, if business continues to be prioritized over human well-being, if we constantly focus on growth, economically, if we don't address climate change, and all that stuff, what would happen? So that was in 1972. You can read about the Limits to Growth report. This research has been revisited a couple of times since then. The most recently was in 2020. In 2020, and previously in like 2008, when the research was revisited, the first time in 2008, I believe. There's also been some other updates in the meantime as well. But the most recent one in 2020 found that we are on track for that, quote, worst case scenario model. What happens if we continue focusing on economic growth at the expense of all else? And what they predicted would happen and what is currently happening that is on track with the predictions of this model 50 years later. We are on track for what they predicted would happen in about, so they said in 50 years, the economy will look like this. And they basically described our actual economy in 2020. And then things have gotten worse since then. And if we continue on that path, since we know that they were accurate about their 50-year timeline prediction, they've also expanded that prediction out, or they originally did continue the expanded, let's see what's going to happen in 100 years. So if we stay on track with that, and the prediction continues to be valid for another 50 years, because it has already been valid for 50 years, we will basically see the global population, so the whole planet, the total number of human beings on this planet, will drop back down to about 2 billion, which is like horrific. That's like, if y'all don't know, the like majority of human beings live in the global south, like close to the equator, and they are going to be hit the hardest by climate change. So the area of the earth where the most people live is going to have the greatest amount of death as a result of climate change. These predictions also indicate that the economy will stop growing by like 2030 and will likely like crash and no longer exist by the year 2040. And I would guess that with the last 5 years since this was revisited in 2020, I would bet that there is an acceleration on that timeline. In the same way that, like, with climate change, we're constantly like, oh no, things are happening way faster than we predicted that they would. So I encourage you to read more about Limits to Growth. But so when I say things like, I think the federal government might not be able to continue to exist, because it's a huge country with like one centralized federal government. And like, if the economy collapses, if there is no economy, if there's no GDP, if trade breaks down, then how can there be a central government? I guess I don't really have a clear XYZ, here's the steps, but I just kind of have this feeling like I don't know how they could continue to function, which feels to me like then there would be a situation where smaller, more localized economies are going to have to internally stabilize themselves and create partnerships with nearby territories, which is basically how we end up with, like, you know, Cascadia, balkanization, that type of stuff. 2 billion would be what, about 1900? Yeah, it's about 1920 or like 1910. So the population of the Earth would drop back down to what it was in the early 1900s, which is bad. That's a lot of corpses, you guys. So many corpses. Just get on my soapbox. I know that those of you who already know me, and like I have told you this over and over again, and so I apologize for being repetitive about the limits to growth report, but it's an opportunity that's hard to ignore. If there's likely 50 people here who have never been here before, this is what we're facing down the barrel of. Like, and I just want to be clear on that. I do not know what's going to happen if in 15 years the US economy collapses. This is part of why I'm in this mindset of like, I just need to start with buying a house and things. And then just like, I now possess the house. I have all my stuff there. And if the economy collapses, then maybe I won't have to finish paying off my mortgage. Like, I'm just like, I just need to get these things started and we can worry about the long-term shit later. I'll refinance if the economy survives. Not gonna lie, feels like there would be a sanitation issue at that point. How do you process that many corpses? Cremation en masse. Probably cremation en masse, yeah, which would not be good. I mean, of course, it's not gonna happen like overnight or anything, but I mean, you remember in the first most horrific part of COVID, which to be clear, it is still here and still horrific, but during the worst part at the beginning, there were like corpses that they were like putting corpses in refrigerated trucks because there wasn't enough space for them. So yes, you do end up with sanitation problems in situations of mass death. Most of the crash will come from the fact that no one can extract any more wealth through abstract financial instruments. Yeah, totally. And then what is there? After like the stock market comes crashing down and all of these people's hypothetical wealth, because that's the other thing too, is that like Jeffrey Bezos doesn't have $1 billion in his pocket. That's his like estimated value of all of his shares and all the companies that he owns and shit like that. And so it doesn't really represent like his actual buying power. Well, I mean, it kind of does if you can use the hypothetical value of your other companies to represent a type of buying power, which totally does exist. Anyway, so when that goes away, what is there? And so that is part of what I am doing currently with my actual time and money, and what I recommend everybody else does, because if the federal system of support falls apart, if we no longer have trade from, if we no longer get to have bananas because we cannot trade globally, because there's been some kind of collapse and there's no gasoline available and whatever, I don't know the situation. You can fill in the blanks on the details. What do you have when the Walmart shelves are empty? Well, if you plan ahead, then what you have is a robust community of independent farmers, from whom you can purchase goods and support a local economy. So that's what I'm doing. I know that it's more expensive for me to buy my produce at the farmer's market versus continuing to buy it at Walmart. And I don't know what I'm going to do during the winter. Like, I'm going to have to see if there's any place that you can still buy local produce where somebody has like a greenhouse or something and they produce some amount of stuff during the winter. Or are we just going to eat fewer vegetables during the winter? Or am I going to go back to buying it from Walmart? I don't know. But for so long as the fucking farmer's market is open until the end of the harvest season, I'm going to continue buying locally because I am investing that money locally. And often, excess that these local farms have gets donated anyway. Maybe once things have started to like get a little bit past their prime, they get donated. So it's not like the primo version of the product. But yeah, these local farms will continue to produce food when global supply chains fall apart. And the more money you can spend on them now, the more they can build out their business to be resilient. Oh, maybe we need to buy another couple acres of land so that we can rotate our crops a little bit better. Boom. join a CSA, like pay several $100s up front at the beginning of the season, and then they can just like know for sure that they have that money for the season, and then you get a box of vegetables every week or something, just like start investing in that local infrastructure now, and even have your own garden and stuff. I need to go buy some cover crop seed. I want to get like a mix of like legume and peas and plant a cover crop on my, I think it's just about that time of year, maybe a little bit too early still. Plant a cover crop on my garden plot and then make a comprehensive plan this winter for what to do with it in the spring instead of like wasting the entire growing season like I did this year. Ugh. Anyway. With climate change, I do worry greatly about climate-related conflicts. Living in Minnesota, when do things like the U.S. water wars start, as some places dry up while others flood out? Yeah, I mean, and that's part of the question that I have about New Mexico, too, is like they have to divert water from the Colorado River. So what happens when, like, the Colorado River doesn't have enough water to divert, and then we just have to be like, sorry, New Mexico, sucks to be you, like... Thanks, Rocket. Have a good rest of your day. Oh, by the way, I am a political commentator as like my main job, I guess. I'm trying to branch out and do other things like talk about politics through the lens of movies and TV film media analysis. But this is my job, and I accept tips. If we get to $100 in tips, which I think is only $30 away for today, I will open this magical treasure chest, which is kind of hard to see, I guess, because it's behind the chat. But there's a treasure chest there, and my husband put something in there, and I do not know what it is. I was like, hey, put something in here, and we will find out together if we get $30 more in donations. Also, like, I'm going to get off of here in, like, less than an hour because I have something I have to do at 2 o'clock. So we only have so much time. We only have so much time. Kitty says the biggest fiction we were ever fed in school is that we are a centralized government. The state collect the taxes for the Fed and then send them into them. If the states don't pay their taxes, there is no Fed. When mass death occurs, let the ravens and the vultures do their work. Sure, I guess, but like, yeah, rotting flesh still. Sanitation problems. We gotta feed the bear population. But yeah, I've been wondering about that taxes thing too. Like, if the government withholds funding from California, for example, and is also sending the National Guard of other states as a type of Confederate army into California and all that stuff, like if they're withholding the funding, then like literally, why would you pay the taxes? Why would you not, as the state of California, be like, hey, yo, here's the thing though. If you don't give us our funding, we're not giving you the taxes. Are you fucking serious? Are you kidding me? Are you for real right now? Thank you so much, Lex, for the $2 super chat. Trans pride, trans power. Indeed. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Putting us at $72. Super chats are less preferable to direct donations through the website, but they are still appreciated. There we go. $72. Hello, M. Welcome to the website. Thank you. Appreciate you for coming over here. Yeah, listen, that's what I'm saying. If California alone stops paying taxes, the U.S. like federal government is fucking hosed because California pays way more in than it gets back in taxes. This is the thing. Literally, we exist in this world, and this is one of those things that like Republicans say dumb shit, and it's like actually the opposite is true. Like we, blue states, subsidize red states. Red states pay less taxes and they receive more federal benefits like food stamps and welfare and shit because their economies fucking suck. red states' economies suck, and so of course people are then relying. They're like, it's basically the same thing as like when Walmart employees are on food stamps, and like so their refusal to pay their own employees, and the fact that the government then has to subsidize those employees having basic access to things like food means that Walmart is relying on the government handout for them to make more money and not be responsible to their employees. So it's like a similar thing where, you know, the red states pay less, expect more, and the blue states seem totally content to
Quantum
receive
Chaos
less.
has donated $20. What's in the box?
Hey!
What's in the box?
Thank you very much, Quantum Chaos, for the $20 donation. I appreciate that. Also, thank you very much for your donation yesterday. I just didn't add it to the donations for today because I wanted to maintain some tension. I wanted to experience the rising tension because I don't know what's in the box either. And therefore, we get to experience it together. So, appreciate that. We are now at $92, only $8 away from that $100 goal. Do the states have their own tax gathering agencies, though, or is everything centrally gathered by the IRS and amounts remitted back to the states? Well, so keep in mind that there are lots of forms of tax that are not income tax. So obviously we file through the IRS, and usually like, you know, when I use a service to do my taxes, typically the federal filing is free and the state filing, there's a small fee on it. So I think that means that the system through which the states collect income tax is different than the way that the federal government collects federal income tax, because those are two different things, right? So the states can't cancel your federal income tax. You will still owe federal income tax at the end of the year. But what the states have, they have other forms of tax revenue, like I don't actually know what taxes are required. Like I started thinking of things like property tax, but like property tax is a local tax. Sales tax, well, sales tax is a state tax. So I'm not sure. There are like specific taxes that the states funnel up to the federal government. I just don't know what they all are. Because, like, think of that, like, the federal government, like, the only taxes they collect from most people is, like, their federal income tax. But, like, the Fed also has other ways of collecting taxes, like, bigger things like import-export taxes. Obviously, the discussion of tariffs. Tariffs are a form of tax. The federal government can levy those to have additional revenue. Jom discovered your channel today, enjoying the stream, but have to leave for work. Appreciate hearing your thoughts. Happy to be subscribed. Hell yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. I hope you have a good rest of your day, or as good as it can be while you're at work. I understand how that goes sometimes. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Hopefully you enjoy being a subscriber on this channel. I hate people who dedicate their lives to being preppers because of the toxic right-wing individualist mindset. However, I so desperately wish I could afford a little farming commune to keep my little queer community more independent from this hellhole country. Before I moved here to Oregon, I was feeling this intense desire to basically do the little homestead thing. Like, I'm gonna go buy a house with some land, maybe even a big enough chunk of land that I can hunt on it, and certainly a big enough piece of land that I can have my own greenhouse, and like, the closer to 100% self-sufficient we can be, the better. And I was also thinking of other things like, how can I make sure I have all the other things that I need in case that there's a global supply chain disruption, which there probably will be. But, you know, things like soap or honey or sugar or salt or wax or leather. I don't know, like anything, like, you know, fabric, yarn, all of this kind of stuff. I was like, okay, I do feel like I need to be as close to 100% self-sufficient as possible. But now I live here in a place where there already are a bunch of people who have specialized in something like growing food or like growing fruit specifically, or producing milk-based soaps or whatever. Like, there's already a bunch of people who do that here. I don't need to do that. I could pick one thing, which wouldn't be a bad idea, because, like, obviously, if the internet goes away or global communications goes down, then that would be me out of a job, and I would need to start doing something else, probably. So maybe I could pick one thing, but I don't have to do all things. As a member of a community, you don't have to do all things. Maybe I decide to focus up, and I decide I'm going to keep bees. Well, also not necessary, because there are other people in the Willamette who produce honey and honey-based products. But let's just say, yeah, like, let's say I decide I'm going to focus on having an apiary and producing beeswax products, beeswax candles, and honey products. Then, and like mead even, whatever. Like, let's say I run the full gamut of anything honey product related. I do all of that. Even that is probably a little bit unrealistic. Like, I think even beekeepers who focus on honey probably give away the beeswax to other candle people. But I don't know. Maybe you have a business and you run it all and you do it all. But yeah, I no longer feel the need to do literally everything. If I have candles and honey, because I've decided to focus on having apiaries, then maybe I trade honey with my neighbor down the street who has chickens. And like, I'm already in like a mutually supportive relationship with people, and I don't even necessarily know these people. You know, like, my partner has a job. You know, he works in the trades. He works for a company that does construction. And so he's got people, like, one of his coworkers just came into possession of some chickens. And so he's bringing cartons to work, and we're going to buy them for $5 each. And he's got like a bunch of different colors. There's this one brown speckled one that's really pretty. I need to actually eat these eggs. They've been in my fridge for a bit, but they weren't washed. So they're going to last for a while, but I should still cook them and eat them. Anyway, so that is something where, like, I'm getting eggs from this person. It's $5 a dozen, whatever, is not a terrible price for farm quality eggs. And I told you I picked all that fruit when I volunteered recently. And so I have a bunch of fruit, and I was like, okay, I'm going to send some to work with my partner. And I told him, I was like, hey, make some friends for me, you know, make sure everybody knows that this is me giving a gift to everybody about these pears. Yeah, it just feels good to participate in a local community. And then I go to the farmer's market, and I'm starting to know people. Like, I have at least one booth where I walk by and I wave as I'm walking by, because I'm like, hey, I've bought stuff from you a couple times. You're pretty cool. Love that. And yeah, start living it now. And pick your niche and get into it and get to know people who do other things and give people gifts and, you know, do things for people without the expectation of reciprocity. You know, we helped our friends move. And then furthermore, I gave them fruit. I was like, here, have some of this fruit that I got. I have so much fruit. Take it away from me. And yeah, like, I don't want to have relationships that are totally transactional. Anyway, thank you, Lady Addis. I just saw that super chat. I hope you keep your chin up. You're doing great, IMO. Thank you. I'm doing my best. It can be difficult sometimes, but I'm trying. And that puts us over the goal of $100, bringing us to $102 for today's donations, which means we're going to open the treasure chest, and we get to find out together what's in there, because I do not know what is in there. Okay, let's do it. It's like a little bit heavy. I don't know what it is. Should we give it a little shake first? Shake it and find out what's in there? See if we can guess. Oh. Oh. Is it like one big thing? It's like one big thing. Okay, I don't want to shake it around too much. This doesn't belong to me. Whatever's in here. Okay, I see. There's two things in here. Uh-oh, hold on. Okay, hold on. We gotta take this one at a time. That is heavy. That makes sense though. Okay, so we have two different things. We have two options. I've been given two options. Oh my god, thank goodness. Okay, cool. Option number one. My husband collects playing cards. So this is a set of Gundam playing cards. And also, like, I think my partner likes to do these little niche crossovers because it's not just that it's like he collects cards, but he also does other hobbies. So he also builds Gundams sometimes. Like, you know, when you can buy the like sets and you have to snip off all the little connective tissue and then like you build stuff and they're fully articulated. So he builds those sometimes, and therefore so he'll get like cards that are related to one of his other interests, but also has a card collection of like 300 decks of cards. I don't really understand collecting very much. I guess I have a small collection of pocket watches. That's like the only thing though that I think, ooh, I just want that for the sake of just having that and not ever using it for any reason. So yeah, we have Gundam playing cards. And then there's the second thing. Second option. I was like, what in the world? This is a headphones case. What is this? So he bought, this is a ruby, or I guess more accurately, a sapphire. That is, it's like lab grown. So he bought this for like 30 bucks or something. Just a little, very cool, chunky little ruby. Rubies are just sapphires with impurities that make them red. So that's a fun fact for you. The connective parts are called sprues. Yes, that is true. That is absolutely true. So cool. Shout out to my partner. Thank you. Everybody say thank you. Hypers in chat for my partner. Finding something cool to put in the box for me. Looks like a D6. Yeah, it's like a six-sided cuboid kind of thing. It doesn't have the clean edges. Like, it has faceted edges. Let me get it close to you. Yeah, you can kind of see that it has faceted edges, but it is cuboid. So, is it considered synthetic? I mean, it's a lab-grown ruby, so I guess if that's what the word synthetic ruby means, then yes, that's what this is. So cool. That's nice. Is it a power tool? That was a good guess. There was a non-zero chance for it to be a power tool inside there. Yeah, you can just buy a ruby like that for like 30 bucks. They're not as expensive as you would think. Maxwell, thank you so much for this comment. I was like, I'm definitely going to get back to this after we open the box. So have you ever read David Graeber, specifically the book Debt, The First 10,000 Years? The pre-currency barter economy imagined by early capitalist theorists is pretty much a myth. People didn't literally trade what they happened to have on hand. They would keep track of what they owe each other. That makes sense. Or even just keeping it in a general vibes sense. Like, yeah, we helped out these friends move, and I gave them some of the fruit that I had collected. And so if there is such a thing as debt in a relationship, then like the next time we need help with something, we might call them up and be like, hey, can you help us? Like, oh, we just bought this like piece of furniture that's going to be kind of hard to get into our apartment. Can you come help us do that? And so I think it's just better to have relationships that are mutually supportive. And like, of course, you also like the timing where you might be like, oh, I have a shit ton of honey because I just harvested a bunch of it, but maybe it's wintertime or it's growing close to wintertime, and like the person who you usually trade eggs with, like they're like, maybe their fox got into their shit, or their chickens are just not laying as much because it's winter or whatever. So then I might just be like, oh, whatever, you know, like I know that you'll have more eggs in the spring. Like I'm not worried about it during winter. Here's your fucking honey. Don't mention it. I just think, yeah, we should have mutually supportive relationships. I'm gonna try to come to streams more often. Hell yeah, do that. Come to streams more often. We need people here. Niche collector's items and jewels, real dragon stuff here. Oh, that's true. Yeah. I guess my partner is a little bit of a dragon too. A little bit. He's cool just in a different way than I am, you know? Like, I'm cool in a very specific way, and he's also cool, but just in a different way. And so I don't know if he gets all the coolness of the dragon, but I've at least rubbed off on him a little bit. More than once. Sometimes we make bad sex jokes. Oh my god, my hair is just totally flat now. That happens sometimes after I shower. Just like, my hair dries and it's like, actually, I've decided to become completely flat. Like, okay. It's got a mind of its own. That's the real experience of having curly hair. Is like, no matter what, it never is going to do the same thing twice. Me and my wife started collecting glowy green glasses when we got married. Oh, nice. Yeah, my partner also has a collection of uranium glass. Not a very large collection, but a small collection of uranium glass. When I spent most of my 20s homeless, I had to get over the idea of collecting things, so I started collecting skills because I cannot lose them to a storage unit. Your partner has some cool collections, though. I do have a fun collection of uranium glass. Yeah, totally. Do you have leave-in conditioner? Yes, I put on a rice protein treatment after my shower. I just don't put any, gel in. I do have gel, but I wasn't using it. And, so it just doesn't hold a curl shape, basically. June, welcome in. Indeed, yay, Lux stream. You've caught us right at the end. I'm only going to be here for maybe like 20 or 30 more minutes, and then I have to go talk to Jimmy and get things set up for the Sunday After Dark show. I think someone earlier said that they didn't know that the line has a late show. And basically, like, on Sundays, we do 2 streams. We have one really early in the day and one super late. Or not super late, I guess. It starts at 7 p.m. Hold on, let me look. Starts at 7 p.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. for me. So, like, right now, Erica is on with Matt Dillahunty on, like, the Sunday show. Just the one that we do in the afternoon. And then Atheists Take Calls from Believers, Call Forrest Valkai and Eric SNS. Sunday show After Dark. So, yeah. I don't know. I wonder how long it's going to be. I don't know. I'm supposed to do all of it myself tonight, and I feel like wildly unprepared, but I'm going to go over everything with Jimmy again. So hopefully I will figure it out. But haha, terrifying. Easily the shortest turnaround of training for any job I've ever had. I have my dissertation defense on Wednesday, so be prepared for me to be obnoxious about it after. Totally, yeah. I am planning on streaming Wednesday, so I'm looking forward to hearing about it. My understanding was that the origin of writing was officials recording what people were owed for turning in resources. That could make sense, yeah. I've never really, I guess, thought about, like... I mean, I guess I would assume that the first form of writing was some sort of inventory management. Katie says there was also commonly a central location where people could bring all of their excess and be given credit that is traded for other things that people had excess of. That's why mono farms almost never existed, and now we have 2 billion acres of corn uninterrupted by anything except more corn. Fair. I'm trying to think if there's anything else exciting I did over the course of my little vacation. Definitely, it wasn't the only exciting thing that happened, but If you saw my video that I posted on Friday this week, you'll know that I was dealing with some personal stuff too that I'm not really in the mood to talk about right this second. But just suffice to say, like, you gotta be there for the young people, you know? The young people, they need support. They need help. We gotta be it's like we want them to toughen up, and so we do need to help them toughen up to be ready for the world, but also we have to provide them with whatever we can, whatever support we can. Still hoping to learn about any new knitting projects. Oh, I mean, yeah, I guess I'm working on a crochet project right now. That's something that I basically, like, my entire first week of vacation, I was like, bah, doing nothing except this. So I'm making a dress. This camera flattens the detail of the colors a little bit. So, like, I don't know how easy it is to tell that it's like pink, but also orange. And, like, even within the pink, it's got, like, orange in it. I don't know how much detail is going to show up. Again, this camera is not really great for showing that. And then there's also, like, pink throughout the orange. So it's basically like sunset colors or lesbian flag colors, and it's a dress. Or it will be. It's going to be like this. And I'm, like, currently working on building out this part where it's, like, going to connect under the arms. Anyway. So that's something that I'm working on right now. There was a video game with bad inventory management that had to invent writing to complain about it. True. Had to invent writing to complain about poor quality copper. It looks cool. It could also simply be cool as a cropped top. LOL, how long will the dress be? I don't know. So on Ravelry, you can look for projects based on how long of, like, how much yarn you have. And so basically my mother-in-law gave me 4 of these. This is the second one, I think, now. Yes, I've started on the second one of these now. So this is one entire one plus a little bit of the second one. And basically, I was just, like, looking for free patterns that correspond with the amount. Because on the label, it says, oh, this is however many yards. And so I was like, oh, okay, 328 yards for each one. Do a little math. Now I know that it's going to, whatever, I want a project that's going to use up all of this yarn. So I found a dress. And I do not know how long it's going to be, because it's going to be as long as it is until I run out of yarn. That's how shit works sometimes. I don't know. Maybe it'll be a very short thing that I absolutely have to wear leggings with, or maybe it will be lengthier. I have no clue. We'll figure it out. I'll take pictures and put them on Patreon when it's finished, though. That kind of stuff is what I put on Patreon for, like, $1 a month or whatever. Yeah, my favorite sticker on my laptop says, well-behaved copper ingot merchants rarely make history. True. Hopefully it doesn't turn into a wedding-length dress. I don't think so. Given that this is as far as I got with one hank plus a little bit of another one, like, I think that it's probably going to be a relatively short dress. We'll find out. I don't know. I'm excited. That's the exciting part of stuff like fiber arts, is you never know when shit's just gonna go a little weird. Maybe in the middle of your yarn, especially when you buy, like, mass manufactured yarn, sometimes they will, like, unceremoniously put a knot and tie together 2 ends of the yarn in the middle of the skein that are, like, dramatically different. So you have a yarn that's, like, doing a soft gradient from one color to another, and then there's a sudden change, and you're like, son of a bitch. And then you have to, like, cut out the knot and, like, delete some of the yarn and, like, pick it back up in a different place. It's like, yeah, sometimes you have to just figure things out. What if you started knitting something and your yarn just never ran out? I think that would be, like, hell. It's like Groundhog Day. It would be like hell. Just going on forever and ever and ever. Let's see. What else? What else can we chit-chat about? I do want to spend a little more time with you before... Then I'm going to probably have to eat lunch and then get ready to have a whole conversation with Jimmy. I've been keeping track of the comments probably more than I want to on my YouTube channel this week. But honestly, it's like number go up. That is a thing that's happening. Number go up. I think that I've gained like 70 subscribers since I started because I feel like it was somewhere in the like 37 400 range instead of like 37 500. I don't know. Numbers. You could stop knitting. You think? I don't even knit. I can't even make knitting jokes because I don't do it. I heard that Hank Green made a video on SciShow about knitting that people were mad about. I haven't actually seen it, so I don't know. But I heard people were mad. I saw a video that was like, I'm a scientist and a knitter responding to SciShow video. Isn't today Charlie's funeral? Has anything happened? I don't know. I haven't actually heard anything about that. I don't know. I knew nothing about the funeral. But I'm taking a quick look around and seeing if there's any hot goss, any hot news. Okay, this is not where I'm gonna find any of that news. There was for sure a knitting controversy. Okay. Please, let's not talk about Chucky. We talked about him a little bit earlier. So we just kind of are weaving in and out of conversations, but we already did most of our Charlie Kirk conversation earlier. If today was the funeral, I didn't know about that. And if anything has happened at the funeral, then I don't know about it. Thank you, Jason, for the 10 Australian dollars. I appreciate that. We already reached our stream goal today, and we got to observe my husband's weird little objects. Again, we love him. The weirdness is positive. By the way, watched your They/Them review and had a thought. It's not horror for queer people. It's horror for the straights because they'd be the ones being killed. Well, I mean, I personally did feel that it like had a stronger psychological horror element. Of course, you can go watch my They/Them review. But I think it had a much stronger psychological horror element than I think is typical for a slasher. Like, I don't know how long is spent in a slasher, like, building up non-violent tension. But like, you know, the scariest part of that movie was like understanding that the gay conversion stuff was escalating and not knowing where that was gonna lead to. In my opinion, like, I wasn't scared, and I don't think anyone is supposed to feel scared for the camp counselors being slasher murdered. I've been meaning to watch Hank's video about possible past evidence of life on Mars. Yeah, I've heard good things about Mars. Mars news. Yeah, I basically don't see any particular special news about the funeral. If it is today, then I am not really seeing anything about it. Okay, so there is, yeah, so Aaron Rupar, who I normally see doing this kind of stuff, has plans this afternoon that will be taking him from away from the computer, so there will be no live coverage from him of the Kirk Memorial. So that might be part of why I haven't seen anything, because like the main guy I usually follow for that stuff is not posting this afternoon. Okay, funeral just started a few minutes ago. All right. I doubt anything noteworthy is going to happen. I think it's just going to be a bunch of pomp and circumstance. I saw someone on Blue Sky say, is getting raptured a sex thing? Like, well, it wouldn't surprise me. Like, people think that they're talking about the rapture on TikTok, but actually they're talking about some other thing that they are just using the term rapture to speak around the issue, like they have to do with so many other things on TikTok. Also, isn't the US government like now in control of the algorithm on TikTok, or they're about to be, or something along those lines? I'm entering this point where I'm a little bit out of the loop. I was hoping that they would keep his funeral private, considering that his wife and children were witnesses to his murder, but I guess the right has to turn it into a public event. I think actually this is like the wife. Like the wife, I think, is basically using this to, she's gonna grift now. Like she's gonna start making content. Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully the Rapture isn't the new name for Night of the Long Knives. Fucking legitimate. Doing a CNC scene for my Rapture kink. True. It is ghoulish. I think that she posted a picture of her holding or putting her hand on his dead, very obviously makeup covered hand, along with the medal of whatever that his that the husband, not the husband, that the president gave him. They gave him a medal of some kind. So she's doing it already. IDK about the algorithm, but China stopped buying soybeans. Fuck, we are so screwed. Oh, that's funny. Yes, exactly, Viren. Yeah, the wife post. Oh, it was a video. She posted video a day later, stroking her husband's corpse hands. Ugh. Did you see his wife's speech? She was laughing the whole time. No, I haven't seen that. But like for her to be married to him, you know that she's a bad person, right? You know, you don't marry Charlie Kirk without knowing what you're getting into. Oh no. I've heard that Kirk called himself moderate compared to his wife, and I can see it. Oof, rough. Hey, the Patreon button just popped up. Look at that. That's fun. Ooh, yawn. So sleepy. I'm just taking a quick gander. We're looking around. Oh, have you seen people saying that so I've just seen like people talking about how Charlie Kirk's body is like a miracle. So he was in front of a crowd, right? He was giving this like he was doing crowd work with these quote unquote debates. He was in a little gazebo tent and there was a crowd behind him. And that was a concern that I had also because like as a like when you're learning responsible firearm handling, you one of the main fucking rules is like you have to know what is behind your target. You need to know what's in front of and behind your target. So, you know, if you can't see what's behind the target, you shouldn't necessarily take the shot even if it's lined up perfectly. And I'm just thinking about like when you're hunting a deer, you know. So for this for him to have gotten shot in his like neck, which is like soft tissues, and for it to have not gone hard enough to go and hurt somebody behind him, like that's noteworthy. But now allegedly the surgeon who worked on him says that Charlie Kirk's body stopped a bullet in an absolute miracle that saved others, according to TPUSA. Like, oh, Charlie Kirk's body, he's like the Man of Steel. His body stopped a bullet that would typically just go through everything, and it was a miracle no one else was killed because he was so beefy and strong that the bullet didn't go through him, even though it should have. Like, I don't know. It's weird. Chucky's widow said this grieving widow is calling for a holy war. Yeah, cool. We love that. Pretty sure the bullet hit his spine. Okay, cool. Yeah. I guess I just saw like I haven't seen the video. I just saw a screenshot of like whoa. Stop it. I just saw a screenshot of like the whole so I guess like I just assumed maybe it got in at an angle. It was a little bit off to the side. But hitting the spine sure would have taken a lot of the power out of the velocity of the bullet. Yeah. Lady Addis says that the video shows that the bullet actually went through clean. I have no idea. did not see the video. Not interested in seeing it still. It was a downward angle shot. Okay, that's true. Sure. Plot twist, the rapture already happened, but the whole rapture was just the angels taking one look at this shit show and saying, nah, none of you are getting in. Fair enough. We are now in hell. The rapture already happened, and now we're in hell. I'm gonna have to, like, put together some thoughts about... I don't know. So I've been watching a lot of different... So I started watching Attack on Titan. I was like, I want to watch Attack on Titan. So I've been watching Attack on Titan. And, you know, there's this whole narrative of, like, protecting what's yours. And I know that people have criticized Attack on Titan for being fascist. I am watching it and making my own judgment, because I haven't watched it since probably the first time I heard somebody say it's fascist. Like, whatever, it's fascist apologetics or something. Whatever. Allow me to enjoy what I want, and then maybe you'll get a video out of it later. Of me criticizing it for some reason. Anyway, so there's all these narratives of, like, protecting what's yours, or like going and getting it. And, like, I love the Lord of the Rings, and Lord of the Rings is also this narrative of, like, protecting and defending. I was thinking of the quote from Faramir that's like, I do not love the bright sword for its sharpness, nor the arrow for its swiftness, nor the warrior for his glory. I love only that which they defend. And I think it's really interesting, like, and I've also been thinking about, you know, like, when I get an upswelling of emotion, feeling like there is something worth protecting, or like I'm going to do what I can to protect people I love and care about. I think about and try to empathize with, like, and I'm trying to connect somewhat to how these Republicans who may feel that way, and, like, how do the narratives that we tell, like, intersect with that, you know? Obviously, J.R. Tolkien is talking about, like, a literal war. I don't actually know which war he was in, but I know that he was a soldier, and so he's talking about, like, you know, defending your home and your country and things when they're under assault, and, like, how war changes you and you come back and you're not the same. So, like, cool, like, I get it in that context, but we have so many stories like this in the modern era. And I wonder to some degree, like, how do Republicans feel, first of all, when they feel like they need to protect something? Like, do they cry the way that I cry when I think the world is worth defending and people I love are worth defending, and when I imagine having to make sacrifices in order to ensure our safety? Like, that makes me cry. When Republican men are, like, imagining the immigrants storming the Walmart or something, or, like, personally coming to steal their shit off their land, like, how do they feel? Do they feel like things are worth protecting, and that they are moving from a place of love, and they're so overwhelmed by that emotion that they know that they will go to any length to protect the things they love and care about? Or more likely, I guess, I imagine that it's more of like an urge to be violent, and like I hope you will. Like, I hope somebody gives me an excuse to be violent. Like, I do kind of feel like it has that. But yeah, I wonder, like, with narratives like Attack on Titan, like, what is it that we all collectively, from so many different walks of life, from so many different countries even, like, because Japan, obviously, different country, like, why are we all telling these stories? What is it that we all feel the need to protect? Or what are we worried about being put in a position where we are forced to make sacrifices to protect that which we love and care about? I don't really have a conclusion to that thought process. It's just been something that I've been thinking about. Because, of course, like, I think that many people desire for trans people to not exist anymore. Right? Like, I think that is real. We recently had a guy who, whatever his name was, who said that he thinks that we should give homeless people a lethal injection. Like, clearly there are vulnerable groups of people in this country who some folks think we should just kill or eliminate. And so I think that my urge to protect the weak and innocent, I love that which they defend. um I feel like that is coming from like a wholesome place, I guess. And that started for me only fairly recently, whereas these feelings about existential threat and how that appears in narrative, they have existed for a long time. So what is everybody having anxiety about? When I'm like, I feel like I have clearly identified a very direct threat versus like, what are all these other people for so many years, so many different stories? Like, what are all these different writers and creators who put these narratives together? What are they worried? Who are they trying to defend? What are they worried about an assault on their life, on their lifestyle or their livelihoods? Like, I'm just curious about potentially like investigating that question. Given the timeline, probably World War One. Okay, cool. I just wasn't sure like what specifically. I don't know the timeline for Tolkien, and I'm like, there's an entire possibility that as an Englishman, J.R.R. Tolkien was deployed in an unjust war of colonialism. I just didn't know which specific. I don't know where he was deployed to. Lady Addis suspects that for the conservatives, it's less about protecting, but more about enforcing. Maybe. On the left, we seem to typically refer to the state of affairs obliquely as the horrors, whereas the right's anxieties and fixations seem to always boil down to the indignities. I guess that's an interesting point of view, that like the other people around you and them living their lives in a certain way represents some kind of threat to your dignity and your pride. Or like, this is shameful to us as a country. Like, I have a national identity that is so important that I will hate my neighbor over it. Naomi says, I think Tolkien was at the Somme, which was one of the worst battles of the war on the Western Front. Okay, cool. No, I haven't read Tolstoy. My bad. Yeah, true. Imagine loving Walmart that much. Quantum says Tolkien only fought for a few months before getting sick and having to go home, but he was at the Somme and helped take Regina. Okay, so yeah, he saw some of the worst fighting in a very short period of time. So he's like, yeah, and even in the only couple months of my tour, I was forever changed and now feel the need to make stories and talk about trees. Talk about trees. I think like 40,000 people died in one day. His battalion was almost completely lost. Holy shit. Yeah, that's crazy. That's wild. I feel like we should be able to figure out how to not do this as a society. Of course, like, I think anything that the Western powers did during the World Wars was probably like, not anything that they did was like understandable or justified, because obviously like Hiroshima and everything was like completely fucking uncalled for. But yeah, like, I think that Tolkien telling a story that's about war, I completely understand. Like, he did have a much more genuine call than many people who write these kinds of narratives to talk about like protecting that which you love and like there being a true existential threat to the existence of such things. Merles, hello. Excited to catch your stream for the first time. Nice. I am not going to be going for much longer, only a few more minutes. But yeah, typically I stream on Sundays starting at 11 p.m. Pacific time, and on Wednesdays starting at 2 p.m. Pacific time. So those are my 2 days. And then also if you ever want to catch me on the Transatlantic Call-In Show, which I often do on Thursdays on the channel at Q&A Line at like 2 p.m. Central Time on Thursdays, which I am doing this week. And sometimes I'm on the other shows on the line, so you always got to keep your eyes open. Maxwell says, I have a pretty strong Canadian identity and rarely use it as a justification for hate, but I have a lot of hate in my heart for Americans at the moment. Nationalist hate, not always the worst thing. I mean, like I struggle with this, right? Because I am an American and I know, and I've known this for a long time. Americans joke about this all the time. When you, as an American, travel internationally, people do not like you and they're rude to you. And I obviously struggle with that because I'm like, I agree. I think America falls short of its best ideals frequently in a way that can make it difficult to find a sense of national pride. But I also don't agree with many of those things. So I find it difficult to be, as a citizen of a nation where I was just born on the land here, the idea that if I travel and I try to expose myself to parts of the world that are less shitty and more civilized, or like, what if I want to go pay taxes in Europe? What if I want to go pay taxes in Canada? Do y'all not want my taxes? Like, I'm sorry that I'm from here, but I can't control anything. So I feel like, I feel a little bit like I will understand if I ever travel internationally. Like, I understand that people are rude to Americans and like I get it, but also I would probably feel bad. I'd be like, I'm sorry, I didn't do anything. I don't like it. All the reasons why you don't like America, I probably also don't like those things about America, and I would like my country to be a better place, but I'm sorry. I can't do anything about it. Yummy, yummy. A solid 30% of Americans don't suck, and we miss you guys. Aw. Yeah, broadly, can we agree that it's uncool to truly hate others for things they have no control over? I mean, and like, I want to be completely fair. You do not always have control over the things that you like and dislike. So if you hate something, maybe I could say fix your heart, or maybe like work on that a little bit. But I do want to just honor that people don't always have control over what they feel. And that sometimes feelings get misplaced and misdirected. And I understand that. Fascism is designed to appeal to normies' worst instincts. Some people are naturally disposed to be useful idiots, and hating them isn't useful. The challenge is to do better politics to defeat fascists. Yeah. And like, I'm increasingly like, I don't even know how much hate I can muster up for a MAGA person. I'm just like, the, I don't know, like, I guess, do better politics, like, be more convincing. Yeah, I agree, Aspen. I feel like it's a little bit unjustified. Plenty of Americans are shitty, but let us show you that we're shitty before you just assume. I don't know, maybe, I guess it probably is also like the type of Americans that participate in what is functionally still a colonialist style of tourism. The types of people who are doing that and are willing to do that are probably the worst Americans also. So maybe tourists are the worst kind of, like, maybe Americans are the worst kind of tourists, and in other countries where when Americans come there, it is as tourists, that's probably like the conflation where they're like, I hate tourists, and also Americans are the worst tourists, so I hate Americans. I've come around on coffee, but I'm not going to stop hating the texture of coconut. I keep trying with coconut. I still haven't quite gotten there. It's a taste thing. I just don't love the taste. Although I may have just recently gotten over, I did not like peach rings. Artificial peach flavor, not a fan. But then I got a giant bag of gummies recently that had peach rings in it, and I was like, they're. I don't think I'm comfortable saying that they are good, but they're definitely not bad anymore. So, you got to keep trying things. You got to do it. I've noticed lots of Canadians hate Americans right now, and that's actually bitten me in the ass. I got turned away from the Canadian border recently trying to visit my boyfriend and his family, and now I have a mark on my record, which means I'll have a much harder time ever getting to see him again. What? You got a mark on your record because you were turned away? Like, okay, I don't know. That's crazy. What if America split into two, like North and South Korea? I talked about that earlier. I think that it's probably going to be more, I don't think it's going to be two. Like, I think we'll probably have, like, the West Coast and then, like, New England and then maybe, like, a couple different things in the middle or the South or something. Like, but, I do think it'll probably be more like 5 or 6 different coalitions. Also, the people who have money to travel, they're only meeting a certain demographic that comes with entitled mindset on average. That's also true. Like, so if you're from France and you hate Americans, that's because you're seeing, like, entitled, wealthy enough Americans. Yeah. The irony that we're heading toward a leftist confederacy. I guess confederacy, like, obviously in the United States, that term typically refers to specifically the South, the pro-slavery South. But, like, a confederacy is just like a group of states or a group of entities that have decided to work together. Anyway, I need to get ready to shift gears and meet with Jimmy to get ready to do this show that I'm doing tonight. Don't worry, I'm not going to ping you guys or anything for any shows that I am not hosting. No, I'm not going to post them in the Discord, and I'm probably also not going to post them on my YouTube page. So don't worry, you're not going to start getting like a flood of notifications now that I am doing production on the line. So yeah, thanks everybody for hanging out, and have a good rest of your day. And I'm planning to see you on Wednesday. And then also we have Takis this week. So plenty of Luxander in your inbox. All right. Much love, y'all.